I've been watching the pro players training for scrims in order to play the Golden Spatula Cups. And honestly, like they've been playing yesterday with many different comps, and I already notified which are the best performing comps and the one that you should avoid. Hey, my name is Frobe, and I'm maintaining this spreadsheet every day to make sure you have the best insights of the meta. If you want to have access to it, you simply have to click on the link on the description and make sure to bookmark it, because that way you will always stay on page with the meta. So if we talk about the meta and what's actually being strong right now and what we can see as tendencies, I can definitely say that reroll comps are definitely going to take over the meta. We had many focused comps being touched, just like Sorcerer, Scrap, and honestly these were the true strongest. They got nerfed. I think it's kinda deserved, but the only issue is like we don't even have a good focus comp that can take over these ones. If we think about Dominator and Silco, it feels quite underperforming, even with all the buffs, simply because Mundo isn't a tank. Mundo does nothing. So the main tank for Dominator, and it's the same for Twitch. The main tank for Dominator and Twitch is bad. So these comps are bad because they require a huge tank. On the other hand, we had many reroll comps that received the buff. We have, of course, Family that got overbuffed, probably. We got Watcher that helps to buff the Zeri Reroll comp, but also helps to reroll, for instance, the Crimson Pact, so the Vladimir Hero Augment. And we also had other stuff like Akali, which in my opinion wasn't necessary. Quickstriker was really strong. It's just like maybe underestimated somehow by the community. But anyway, let's talk about the comps right now. So in very top comps, I would put Family. I think this is pretty obvious. It got too many buffs. I think you already tried playing Family yesterday and today too before I released the video. It makes sense, everyone plays it. So the only issue is like now it's really contested. So be careful with that. If you are too contested on Family, sometimes you just have a bad game simply because you can't hit your units. Then the second comps, which has many variations, and I'm going to show them all of them later, is Quickstriker Sentinels. So you have Akali, you have Twisted Fate, and you have Nocturne. You have many ways to play this comp, and it all depends on your setup and if you are contested or not. Then we have Ambusher Smeech, definitely didn't change. This one is one of my favorites. I don't put S tier because I think it has a little bit too much conditions to be constantly good. But when you have the conditions, you have a high risk, let's say a risk or high chance rather, to finish first. So that's why I really like this comp. We have Gloves Off, of course. Watchers got buffed, Family got buffed. So of course this comp for Vander is getting good as well. We have Zeri Reroll, like I said, thanks to the Watcher buff. I would even say Watcher now is better than Sentinel, but even Zeri Sentinel is playable. And I'm not saying that you're going to have a bad game. It's just like if you can, rather play Watcher. We have Vladimir, like I said, Crimson Pact, really strong thanks to the Watcher buff. And then after we have all the tier 2 comps, and you will see that we have a lot of focused. Unfortunately, we have 0 focus comps in the S tier or A plus tier. We have all of them in like A, which is okay, but like don't force it if you don't have the spot. We have Dominator Silco, we have 7 Rebel, we have... This is a new comp I'm going to show you because it's a very new comp, and I saw it yesterday from Daisy, who played it and finished first. It was really interesting, but I think it's a little bit tough to play it from any spot, so that's why I put in A. We have Sentinel Academy, Enforcer, Scrap, Sorcerer, and all these things. So let's start with Family Reroll that you probably know very well. Then we're going to have Twisted Fate, and I'm going to show you Zeri because of course this is very trending. Ambusher I already showed you 2 weeks ago, but just in case. And what I really want to show you is the new comp, which is A tier, but I think it's actually interesting in case you want to expand a little bit your flexibility and try to play a little bit something else. So let's start with Family Reroll. Nothing crazy. I would just say that, of course, this is the old version of Family Reroll. You play at level 5, you try to reroll Darius, Violet, Powder, Draven, and if you can, Vander 3 also. And then what's really important, however, is to, once you have at least these 3 units, not Vander, but these 3 units, 3 stars, you start pushing your level and you look for more Pit Fighters. Pit Fighters have received an incredible buff, so it's really worth it. It makes your Violet much more powerful. Then there's another thing I saw yesterday in scrims, is that in case you have a lot of AP items, right? You have your items on Violet, but somehow you drop only AP items and tiers. Actually, don't hesitate to not stuff Draven 3, or not even make Draven 3, and make a triple item powder, because she received an incredible buff, and powder 3 with, I don't know, Archangel, Shojin, plus, I don't know, Giant Slayer, whatever thing, or double Archangel, or Spell Crit, whatever. It's incredible. And if you play that, maybe actually, you know what? I'm going to do it with you, because I saw that yesterday evening and didn't have the time to do it properly. But like, if you have this, you can remove 2, let's say, Pit Fighter, right? And instead you put Echo, which is incredible. No, it's actually GPs that I have to remove. You put it back, because with Echo you already have your scrap, and you have something like Shojin, and then I would say honestly whatever, right? You can even scrap one thing like this if you, for instance, don't have enough items, which is fine because she's scrap. And let's update it. And then this is the version that you might want to play if you have a lot of items on powder. And honestly, don't underestimate her. She really has the capacity to nuke boards, right? Then if we talk about the augments, obviously family, one of the best one. Pit Fighter, really good, as you want to get into 6 Pit Fighters as fast as possible. Welcome to the playground. I think it's good, but not necessarily the best ones. You have Prismatic Ticket, Prismatic Pipeline, because a lot of artifacts or Radiant items are perfect here. So that's why also Living Forge is nice. Portable Forge, Maester's Will, No Scout, No Pivot, One for All, Super Stars, you know the stuff. And I forgot to put the title here, but for the best artifacts, you have a lot of good artifacts, and that's why actually I think Living Forge is one of the best augments if you want to play this comp, and you can force it if you want to. You have Prowler's Crow, Spectral Cutlass, Silvermere Down, Death Defiance, Mittens, really good as well. And if you get Suspicious Trenchcoat, be sure to have Edge of Night and Sterax, because this is the best combination. If you don't, at least Edge of Night. If you don't have Edge of Night and Suspicious Trenchcoat, it's not going to be that powerful. Then you could also have Infinity Force, which is okay. And for powder, Mana Zane, so she can nuke twice, and Luden's Tempest, because she can deal huge numbers of damage, right? And she often overkills units. So with Luden, it can be like a firework of damage, and that's beautiful. Then Twisted Fate Quickstriker, or should I say Sentinel Quickstriker, because now with the buffs of Akali, and also how Nocturne is being more popular right now, I think this is more about Sentinel Quickstriker, and you adapt your units that you make at 3 stars based on your situation. So the most common situation, I would say, is still around Akali and TF, simply because Akali is much more reliable than Nocturne. If you play this comp, and this is very important, if you play this comp, you reroll at level 7. You don't reroll at level 6 for multiple reasons, because unless you have insane Akali with Zonia, with perfect gear and stuff like that, okay, you might want to reroll at level 6 just to have the huge power spike of Akali 3. But if that's not the case, if you play rather around TF, then of course you want to play at level 7. So at level 7, you have high chance also to find Ambessa, and that's why it's really advantaging to reroll at level 7. Also at level 7, you have still good odds, very good odds to find 2-cost units. It's not the most optimized odds for 2-cost units, but you have a very, very good one. And then, of course, for 3-cost, it's perfect. So when you reroll at level 7, you will play with 3 Sentinels and 4 Quickstriker. I know it's a little bit weird, but anyway, you play 4 Sentinels and 3 Quickstriker until you find Ambessa. So most of the time you will have 4 Sentinels, and once you find Ambessa, you play 4 Quickstrikers, because it brings a lot of power. It gives a shield to your Quickstrikers, making your team, especially your Akali, much harder to kill. So with this setup, you want to have a lot of crit damage on Akali. Basically, crit damage is the best on Akali. She has a lot of burst. But on TF, you want flat AP. You really want flat AP. If you look at the stats of the best items for Twisted Fate, you will figure out that Archangel, Rabadon are the best items for him, simply because he has a mechanic that heals one of his allies, and the heals cannot crit. Instead, if you want to maximize its potential, you have to use flat AP. So I put here Giant Slayer, but it can be double Archangel, it can be Rabadon, you know, you understand what I mean. Then the version with Nocturne, which is a little bit harder to play, simply because it requires a good artifact. I think this version, you should never play it if you don't have an artifact like Fishbones, Sniper's Focus, RFC, stuff like that, because Nocturne is not going to be as good as Akali if he doesn't have an artifact that gives him range. That's pretty much it. Then if you have this, if you have Nocturne, it depends on how much you want to play. If you really want to put high pressure, high tempo, roll at 6, because Nocturne 3 is able to solo carry you till, let's say, stage 4, right? Included. But then after stage 4, you kind of need to be like at level 7, level 8 to have your 4 Quickstrikers and 4 Sentinels, because at this point, Nocturne isn't good enough to solo carry everything. But until stage 4 included, this is okay if you have only a solo Nocturne-centric kind of comp. And if you have a Sentinel emblem, of course, play the 6 Sentinels. It does make sense. Put it on Akali if Akali is your main carry, or secondary carry, and your main carry is TF. So really, don't hesitate to pick a Sentinel emblem. It's not bad. You can also pick a Quickstriker emblem, but be careful, don't pick the Prismatic emblem, because the Prismatic is trash. It gives you a Ginzu, and the Ginzu is useless, right? So just pick the gold augment Quickstriker, not the prismatic one. So if we talk about the items, the augments first. So Living Forge, one of the best, because it allows you to set up a really, really good Nocturne. Portable Forge kind of similar. Port Shield, really don't underestimate it. A lot of Sentinels have shield, and the Quickstrikers shield themselves. So this gives a lot of durability to your team. Buried Treasure, because this comp requires a lot of items, as you can see. You can stuff Akali, you can stuff Loris 3, you can stuff Twisted Fate, you can stuff Illaoi, you can stuff Ambessa, you can stuff Rumble. So the more items, the better. Cooking Pot, because you can have Sentinel with it. Coronation allows you to have more units and achieve the 6 Sentinels for Quickstriker quite fast. Items, long distance pulse between Akali and Twisted Fate makes sense. Crown's Wheel for AP. Shield Bash, I'm not sure about this one. I added there when I made this guide, but I wouldn't say this is one of the best, but it can help you for sure, especially if you have Sentinel stuff on, for instance, Akali. Then Sentinel, which is okay. Adrenaline Burst, obviously best. Quickstriker really good, but again, not the prismatic one. It's useless. You're down. Basically, if you pick the prismatic Quickstriker crown, it's basically you playing the Quickstriker crest, but everyone else has a prismatic and not you. So you are at a disadvantage. And the best artifacts for Nocturne, you know, Fishbones, Sniper's Focus, Rapid Fire Cannon. You can also play with Spectral Glass, but I expect that if you are a good enough elo, people will scout and won't get tricked too many times. Zonia on Akali is broken, and Mana Zane on Twisted Fate is really nice. So now let's talk about Zeri. So Zeri is, I think, overly played right now. I think it's overly popular. I'm not saying that this comp is bad at all. It's just like yesterday when I tried to play this comp a little bit, I was always contested by people who had a bad spot, and somehow high roll, of course. If I you know the rules of TFT. If you are contested, the other guy will high roll more than you. So it's always the case, right? So, and to be honest, I was a little bit disappointed that people were hard forcing this comp so much. I'm not saying that this comp is bad. I'm saying that maybe it's a little bit overhyped. But anyway, if you have a good spot to play it, play this comp, because this is supposed to be a good comp. So the way you want to play Zeri, now the best version is with Watcher, because Watcher received the buff, allowing them to be tankier. And you want to reroll level 6 for Zeri. You want to play Zeri if you have very precise items. So Ginzu is mandatory, you need at least once. You can play 2 Ginzu, it's okay. Some builds are Ginzu, Ginzu, Gunblade. But if I look at the stats on the data, right, the statistics, it shows that it's actually better to have 1 Ginzu, 1 Gunblade, and an offensive items like Deathblade or IE, or you can also have Ginzu plus Runan plus Red Buff. Honestly, if you're unsure, I'd suggest you to check the stats of what are the best builds. Here I put the builds with the highest win rate, right? So that's why I put it here. But you will see that actually the best build is Ginzu, 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 because you need a prismatic, how is it called? I call that Ginzu party sometimes, but anger issues, yes, that's the problem of my parrot. My parrot has anger issues. Anyway, so you roll at level 6, once you have Zeri, you push level 7, and if you are not contested, hopefully you're not, you reroll for Scar 3, and also Garen and Echo, all of that at level 7. Or if you are really playing with a lot of health and a lot of gold because you snowball the game, which can happen with Zeri, honestly, you're not necessarily playing from behind, then in that case you can even push level 8, and you reroll all of that. You find all these units at level 8. If you have a +1 Firelight and not a +1 Watcher, then you definitely want to play 4 Firelight. It's much more important. It gives... So the thing you have more in Firelight at 4 is like not only, of course, Scar will heal a little bit more, but he will mostly give a lot of attack speed to Zeri. And you know, like when she dashes, if she gets a lot of attack speed, she will attack a lot. So she will stack her Ginzu quite a lot faster than this version. But on the other hand, your Garen, for instance, is a little bit squishier compared to Garen here. So you have a little bit of difference anyway. So this is why the +1 Firelight, I think, is one of the best versions, to be honest. But you don't necessarily have that all the time. So don't hesitate to go for Watchers or Firelight, depending on the situation. And the third version, which is not that great. I mean, it's okay, but definitely it's not as good as these two, is when you have Sentinels. Sentinels didn't receive any buff. The good thing with Sentinels, though, is like Smeech can give a buff of attack speed on Zeri, so Smeech can help Zeri stack a lot more the Ginzu at the beginning of the fights, and that's actually really good. So if we look at the augments, Firelight, the best ones, of course. Watcher, really good. I don't like the Prismatic at Watcher because it gives you a Steadfast, and Steadfast is one of the worst tanking items for Watchers, simply because durability doesn't add up, just like how armor doesn't add up in terms of efficiency. So the more durability, the less efficient it becomes. So rather, that's why with Watcher, you will look for health and defensive stats like armor and magic resistance. You don't want to have durability on Watchers. It doesn't work. Anger issues, of course, I talked about it. It's one of the best. All that shimmers because you can have actually good... I think the attack speed is better than Collector now that Collector got nerfed. But Starry Knight's very, very good. Allows you to have many 3 stars fast. Belt Overflows, because of course, if you play Garen or even on Scar, it's really nice. Aerial Warfare. So I think this is good simply because it gives you a Scar and Zeri. And you can start the game with that, if you have the good items, and you can snowball very, very hard. So that's why I think it's good. I don't think this is one of the best combat augment, but definitely it has some advantages. Investment strategy, because it gives you a lot of health, and having a lot of health on Watchers or even on Sentinels is never bad. And Sniper's Nest to give a lot more damage to Zeri. So if you look at the artifacts, it's not a comp that likes a lot the artifacts. You will rather look for defensive artifacts. So you have Anima Visage, you can have Horizon Focus on Scar, why not? You can have Innervating Locket, so he casts more often. And if you play the Sentinels, it's literally the same thing. You can simply add Light Shield Crest, simply because it gives a shield based on resistances, and Sentinels have a lot of resistances, so the shields are just bigger. So I'll talk very quickly about Ambusher Smeech, because this was a comp I already talked about 2 weeks ago, and this didn't really move, except the fact that the cash out for Camp Baron at 200 and 300 are better. So the way I would recommend you to play is either at 2-1 you have an Ambusher emblem, right? You can put on Vi, for instance. This way you are not dependent on finding Jinx in order to have the 5 Ambusher, which allows you to have more durability on your unit, and that's really important. So Smeech and Echo don't get one shot, basically. But if you don't have this, I will recommend you to play with Camp Baron. So now with Camp Baron, you will try to cash out 200 or 300 with it. You don't need to do more. I think 100 is not that good anymore since the 200 and 300 cash out got buffed. And you want to stop at 200 if you already have one of these two items, but it will be green. It won't be blue. This is tier 2. You will have tier 1, so it's a little bit weaker. But it's much more interesting to have a chainsaw tier 1 or Flesh Reaper tier 1 rather than a tier 2 of, I don't know, support item. You give that usually on Renata or whoever that does nothing on Smeech. So that's why don't be too greedy. If you have a good item on 200, pick it, and that's going to be enough for you to have a great game with Ambusher. So of course you reroll at level 7. Now also Echo is less contested compared to before because Scrap is less played. So it should be easier for you to find Echo as your secondary carry. And from that point, if you have this setup, it's a first place, in my opinion, almost impossible to lose. Of course, against 10 rebels and stuff like that, you can still lose, of course. But you have high chances of winning with this setup. With this setup, also, you have high chances to make a good game. Not necessarily winning, but at least a good game, right? And that's pretty much it. And if you don't have any of them, I would say that this comp is quite complicated. Maybe you will high roll your Smeech, but don't expect to have like an insanely good game. If you will look about the augments, Flurry of Blows is one of the best, gives a lot of attack speed, gives a crit chance. Turns out everyone can crit with Ambushers. Portable Forge because you have some good artifacts. Eerie Grab Bag in case you really need to have your Smeech 3 very fast and then you can push. Camp Baron, like I said, can be interesting. Then you have Ambusher, Loot Explosion, interesting, but not in 2-1. I wouldn't say Loot Explosion in 2-1 is good, as usually you don't have enough Ambushers to use its effect properly. Mace's Will, broken. Tiniest Titan, Titanic Titan, especially if you have a Camp Baron start. Buried Treasure to have more items, and Freaky Friday, why not? Because Smeech can be happy, and Echo as well with these items. So if you look at the best artifacts, you have Prowler's Claw Smeech, really good. You have Silverman Down Smeech, really good. You have, of course, Zonia on Echo. You have also Elf Defiance that can replace BT, yes. You have also Seeker's Arm Guard, a little bit less good compared to Zonia on Echo, but why not? And then you have the Infinity Force, which are great, but not excellent. And now let's talk about the last comp I wanted to show you guys. I think this comp is really interesting. I saw Dezek yesterday finishing first by quite easily, let's say. And it requires a Pit Fighter emblem. So I think this comp is not good if you don't have a Pit Fighter emblem or if you don't have insane artifacts. Because one of the main issues is that if you don't have a Pit Fighter emblems, if you want to have 6 Pit Fighters, you will have to play a lot of useless units. Right now we have only Violet, and it's okay. But if you have to remove, let's say, Elise in order to play Draven, then your comp is not going to be strong enough and it's going to fall apart, basically. So the way you want to play it, because this is really good, is like you have 6 Pit Fighters, you have Scrap thanks to Gangplank and Corki, which is also linked with Urgot for Artillerist. And you have also Form Swapper with Elise and Bruiser plus Enforcer with Stab. So it's really this comp, like everything makes sense about it, but you need that Pit Fighter emblem, otherwise it doesn't work. And I'm thinking about that. I need to add Cooking Pot as one of the best augments here, as you can of course make a Pit Fighter emblem with Cooking Pot. So I'm going to add that. I'm just doing it now because, sorry about that, I just forgot. Oh no, wait, it just replaced the wrong thing. My bad. It was Pit Fighter here. Yep. Okay. So now let's talk about this comp. Of course, it's one of the few comp that I present today. It's actually the only one where you have to play level 8. You look for 4 cost units, and you will definitely require to find a Sevica. So 4 cost comps where you actually need to find your 5 costs, otherwise probably you have a very bad game. So once you have your level 8, you look for Corki. Again, Scrap is less played. Corki should be easier to find now. Vi is also not really played, as Enforcers isn't really trendy right now, so she should be easy to find. Elise is always contested anyway, so it doesn't matter. But most importantly, Sevika received the buff, and you really want to have her. So Vi is going to be your main carry. Think of Corki as someone who will deal side damages. That's why you have stuff like red buff. You can put also Last Whisper if you don't have an Event Shroud or something like this. So use Corki more like your secondary carry, because Vi is the one who will deal a lot of damage. Also, since she has 6 Pit Fighters, she will heal back 55% of her health, plus she has 15% Omnivamp. I would say don't build BT because you don't need it. Instead, you would prefer to have Sterak's, Titan, because it gives more health, more resistance, so it values all that healing. And also the last item, something very, very offensive, like Giant Slayer, Infinity Edge, or even Death Blade. Doesn't matter, just like slam and kill. Because don't forget that all the damage she does, 22% of it will be added as true damage. So she has a 22 true damage amplification of whatever she does. So if she doesn't have a lot of damage, you will sometimes struggle to kill tanks. Like with this build, you see Eloy 2 with triple item, you slam her down, she's dead. So basically, that's the build, and don't be baited by BT. Very, very important. If we look at the augments, I think, so I just added Cooking Pot because I forgot to add it. Pit Fighter emblems, of course, insanely good because this is literally the condition in order to play this comp. Inspiring Epitaph, really good. It's an extremely good combat augment for this kind of comp where you have a lot of melee units. And Swords Overflow, you will never run out of swords in this comp. Living Forge, because you have a lot of great artifacts. Portable Forge, Latent Forge can have the same. Not today, really nice. Can replace one of the items to have a little bit more defense. Prismatic Pipelines, because you'll be happy to have artifacts, support items, or Radiant items. Replication for having more swords. And Likely Duo, so it's not saying that the trait itself is good, but it can give you Sevika. That's why it's good. And I forgot to talk about Sevika. So most of the time you don't have Sevika early. You have a Vi full item, Corki full items. For Sevika, you just put whatever scrap items you have. And if you can optimize it, play Sevika as your main caster. So you just want her to cast. That's why you will have Protector's Vow. That's why you have Edge of Night, so she doesn't get one shot while she's flamethrowing any unit. And Event Shroud, because here I needed Shred, and having Ever Shroud is great on Sevika too. So now we can talk about the artifacts. Spectral Cutlass, if you want your opponents to lose their hair whenever they face you. Silver Meltdown, just to like make Vi almost unkillable. Prowler's Crow, I would suggest play this if you can build an Infinity Edge, or if you have something like Piercing Lotus, so she can crit on her spell. Horizon Focus, that deals a lot of damage with Vi. Suspicious Trenchcoat, kind of similar to Violet. I said earlier, you will want to pair that with Edge of Night and Sterak, so she has full utility of that. Infinity Edge and Death Defiance are okay, you know, like they're not bad, but they're not exceptional. And you can also have, for instance, a Collector on Corki. So that was a pretty long video, and I'm sorry about that. I think we had a few new comps, and I wanted to show you especially the last one, which is actually really nice. I really want to play it, and I feel like I'm gonna play it as soon as I have the setup to play it. And again, you have many other comps here. I put all of them. I update it quite regularly, so click on the link in the description, and also bookmark this page, because this way you can be easily updated in case you have any doubts. Until next video, see you at the top of the ladder.